And don't for a moment convince yourself that there is any perfect place or perfect point that you need to strive to get to, because that shit is a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. This is your host, Natalie Facey, and really thank you for giving me this great honor and pleasure of being able to sit with you. Really the gift of us being able to connect in this way. Today's episode is around Mother's Day, and I know that Mother's Day brings up a mix of emotions. It brings up different memories. It brings up the longing. It brings up grief. And so I am sending you just so much love and so much care as you move through this day or you move through this time. I have to admit that I have no idea how I'll feel on Mother's Day. I'm recording this the day before. I don't know how I'll feel tomorrow, but the agreement that I have made with myself is to give myself grace. I make it an open, unscheduled time. I don't make appointments with anyone. I don't tell myself that I'm going anywhere. I don't tell myself that I'm going to do anything to honor my babies. I really just leave it as an open space for myself. And so whatever emotions want to show up, and in whatever way that I feel comfortable moving with or not moving with those emotions, I essentially give myself the space to do so. And so whatever feels right for you, whether it is stepping away from the technology and all the things and humans, or connecting with friends, connecting with loved ones, or being in nature, whatever it is that your spirit is calling for, I encourage you to really give yourself the permission to do that, because this day just has so much. This day and this time frame just has so much to navigate, so many triggers, so many memories, so many emotions that intensify. And so at times when it would be easier to work through the triggers, they might become more intense. And so really encouraging you to give yourself whatever space and grace that you need. Ask for whatever support that you need to move through this time. Okay. All right, so moving into this episode, it really is around the fact that no version of motherhood is perfect. And there are two different experiences that I want to touch on. I want to touch on the experience of being a lost mom, which is one term that's used, or being a mom to angel babies, a mom to babies who are not physically here. And then the second experience is being a mom or a parent to children who are here. They are physically here, and you are responsible for their care. So let's start with the first experience, which is being a lost mom or being a mom or a parent to angel babies, angel children. And the thing that was coming up to share with you is that I'm often asked if I have children. And I think it's because, I don't know, I think someone assumes that, someone who is in the age range that I'm in should have had children by now. And there are times when I might say yes, and I will share more about what my experience has been. But more often than not, I actually say no. And for me, that doesn't feel like rejecting my babies or not honoring my babies. It really is me sort of like being realistic. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's me being aware of the context of the conversation, the context that I'm in. So I'll give an example. I went to a camping trip a few weekends ago, and an elder man asked, oh yeah, so there was a cute little boy whose mama I knew, and he was close by, and I was asking him if he needed something. And so this elder asked, is that your son? And I said no. And then he asked, do you have children? And I said no. And then he asked, are you young? Meaning, how could you not have children? And I think he then went on to say, like, how can a nice girl like you not have children? And I smiled and left the conversation at that. A part of me knew that that wasn't like the space that I would want my story to be held in. It wasn't going to be held in that space. Because really, in answering that question, if I have children, for me to share any part of that story, it means that I am entering into a deeper level of intimacy with someone. And people who are driving Ubers have asked me that question. And if I'm not going to go there if I don't feel comfortable going there, and if I don't feel as though my story is going to be honored, right? And the other part is like, will it make this person uncomfortable? And really, I think what it comes down to is, does this person have the capacity to hold my story? And if my sense is that the answer is no, then I usually say, no, I don't have children, because I'm not going to enter into that conversation with that person. And at that very same event, I was in another conversation with someone else who asked, do you have children? And my answer was yes. I've had 2 pregnancies. One ended in a loss. And in the second pregnancy, the baby was born and he lived for 6 weeks. And I felt totally comfortable saying that, because we had already entered into the space of deeper intimacy, right? We were already having sort of like the heart-to-heart kind of live conversations. And even though this person was also a stranger or someone who I was just meeting, I could sense that there was spaciousness for my story. I could sense that my story could be held there. And the response was something that was supportive. It's like, oh, okay. And then we continued talking. And so, yeah, I'm not sure why I wanted to start with that. Maybe it's that there are all kinds of things, questions that might come up as triggers. And there are different ways that we might respond based on what feels safe and settling for our nervous system in the moment. And so maybe I'm wanting to share that so that if there is ever a time when someone asks if you have children and the answer is no, maybe it's offering some relief from, whether it's guilt or shame or any other heavy emotion, right? And really just knowing that our wise bodies, we will be able to tune into whether or not our stories can be held, whether or not our stories can be held with love, and if the invitation for that conversation is something that you want to step into or something that does not feel as though it will serve you. Okay? So it's hard enough being a mom to children who are not here, a mother or parent to children who are not here. And it makes it even harder having to navigate how other people move with that experience, right? Whether or not they'll say something insensitive, whether or not they'll be empathetic, whether or not they'll try to tell you what herbs and remedies you should, be taking to quote unquote fix your body. So I'm just really naming that how you respond in the moment, it usually is a signal of what feels safe and supportive for you. And so just honoring that whatever your response has been, whatever your response will be, it's okay. That is okay. Without a doubt, I know that I am still a mother to 2 babies. I don't need to prove that to anyone. I don't need to wear a badge. I don't need to make a post on Instagram. I know who I am. I know what my story is. I know how I hold my story. And I also know how I want that story to be held. And so, yeah, it's okay for me too to move with that in any way that feels good and balancing and right in the moment. All right, so that feels good to share, and really just honoring you and your journey and honoring all the ways that you will continue to move on the journey. And my prayer, my wish is that you can continue to surround yourself with grace and with love, and really just knowing that in any moment you are doing the best you can. And if you're doing the best you can, that is enough. It doesn't matter if your best looks different from what someone else wants. It doesn't matter if your best today looks different from what your best was yesterday. I really encourage you to just honor where you are, moment to moment, and honor what your needs are, moment to moment. Really surrounding yourself with support and love as you're moving through your journey. Okay. So the next experience I'd like to touch on is being a mother or a parent to babies and kiddos who are here right now. That is a whole other experience of tending to these humans and, helping to ensure that they have the best experience, the best entry, the best upbringing on the planet. It's a whole other world. I think of the ways that I am a mother, and I say mother to the ones who are here. Mostly it's being a community mother. Mostly it is being, the bonus mom who is in the community or in the neighborhood and can offer them love and care as another adult who's there, as another adult who sees them, who sees their beauty and their magic and their wonder. Other ways that I am a mother or play the caretaker role is as an auntie to some beautiful nieces and nephews. And another way is being a godmother. So hello to all the kiddos who I have the great fortune of being able to see them in this world. And the final way that I'll share is being the auntie to those children whose, what's the way to put this? All the families and parents whose pregnancy journey I've supported. I definitely consider myself to be an auntie to all of those kiddos, and they are spread all across the country, a few across the world. And yeah, my heart feels full because it feels like such a gift. I'm really feeling the abundance and the expansion of that, to have had the opportunity to touch the lives of these mamas, these families, these children all across the world, and to know that impact will always be there. It's such a gift. It really is such a gift. I'm thinking of, well, based on the title of this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the ways that motherhood is just not perfect. So before we get there, I want to talk about how maybe the first time that this really became clear for me that it's not perfect. And I think I had the idea, because there were challenges on my pregnancy journey. So the first one ending in a pregnancy loss at 17 plus weeks, the second one ending in the baby being born and then being born prematurely and then making his transition. So really, the goal that I was trying to reach was to have a baby that stays and lives with me. And I think along the way, I convinced myself that if I just had the baby, if I just brought the baby home, then I could be a perfect mother, right? Like, it doesn't seem that hard. Like, the part that was hard was the pregnancy and the childbirth. Really, that was a challenge, like getting this baby home. And once I got the baby home, then everything would be smooth sailing, right? Because we've been doing this for centuries and centuries. But I realized that that is not true. Like, no part of motherhood is perfect. No version of motherhood is perfect. If you are convinced otherwise, please let me know, because I'd love to learn what your experience has been. But from my experience, from what I've observed, no part of it is perfect. So Mateo is the name of my son. He's my second. And while Mateo was in the NICU, I was pumping breast milk so that I could save that for him for when I expected that he would be home. And so I had an entire freezer full of expressed milk that was dated and organized by the date, and came to the sad reality that he wasn't coming home, and so I needed to do something with the milk. If I had poured the milk down the sink, oh my gosh, I'm feeling the sadness just thinking about that, then it would have been as though I was losing him twice. Because really the milk was the hope that I held on to. It was the way for me to mother while he was in the NICU, right? So while I was by his bedside, I was pumping, and their whole freezer there, there was milk there for me. And while I was at home, I was pumping, and so there was milk there for me at home. And I could not imagine pouring that milk down the sink. It would have been just too heartbreaking. So I learned that I could donate the milk, and I connected with this organization. They had the milk tested, had it checked and confirmed. Did they have the milk tested or me tested? Some testing was done and confirmed that, I was clear to share the milk. But then I realized that it felt weird to just, leave the milk at a drop-off center and not actually connect with the families, because the part of that experience that would have been the most satisfying for me is knowing who those families were. And I wanted those families to know a part of Mateo's story. Like, I wanted him to be known, right? It's as though donating his milk was some kind of legacy that I could create for him, so that a part of our story could mesh, could merge, could become a part of someone else's story, right? A part of me and Mateo could be a part of someone else's experience. And so I did eventually drop off some portion of the milk with this organization at the drop-off center, but I also joined groups on Facebook that have mamas and parents asking for donated breast milk. I'm pretty sure I didn't know that this existed. I'm pretty sure that I learned about it either from a nurse in the hospital or someone in the birthing and loss community, because I did not know that this was a thing. And in, putting a post on Facebook, so many people reached out to me immediately. I was sort of overwhelmed by all the requests that just came flooding in, and trying to coordinate, okay, how many packets do you need, and where are you located, and when's a time that you can pick it up, and all of that stuff. And for me, it really was confirmation that this journey of motherhood, it is not perfect. Because the people who were asking for the donated breast milk, there were families who had different challenges. So someone might have had a health condition so that they could not nurse their child. Someone, or nurse their child, from the natural milk. There's a family with triplets, and the mama was not able to produce enough to keep up with the demand of the triplets. There was a family who the mama was just not producing enough milk. And different people had different stories, but what it all came down to was they really wanted natural milk, and their body wasn't able to produce enough or to produce any. And I imagine that being in that situation is really difficult. I also know that from working with clients who are nursing for the first time, or nursing for the first time in a while, it really is stress inducing and shameful and difficult if their milk supply hasn't come in and the baby isn't being nursed. And so imagine just not being able to do that at all, or not being able to do enough of that to nurture the baby in the way that you'd want. Like it's really difficult, and there really is this experience of guilt and shame that enters into the scenario, because the expectation that we have of ourselves, and the expectation that we think that society has of us, is that our bodies were made to do this, and so we should be doing it effortlessly. And I say again that no version of motherhood is perfect. While there's some things that might be effortless, there are other aspects of the experience that are really difficult, and it takes time for, as a parent, for you to learn about your baby, or as a baby, for you to learn about this new world that you're in. And so going back to this experience of donating the milk, I was just touched over and over again in each of those exchanges, and I am almost being moved to the point of tears. There was this, like all of those women and mothers and families were just so beautiful. And yeah, just so much beauty, and from my perception, like so many ways that they checked the boxes of progressing in life. There were so many things that were going right. And I knew without a doubt that the part about the breastfeeding and the nursing, like that, would likely be kept in secrecy. Because again, our society holds these standards of who we're meant to be as mothers or parents, how well we're supposed to do it, and if we're not doing it well, then shame on you. Try to do it better. Get yourself together. You're not doing what you should be doing. And I can broaden out that one example from the breastfeeding that doesn't go the way that one would expect it to go, to parenting in general, right? So whether it's getting the baby to go to sleep, setting up a sleep routine, meals in general, or tending to the house, or parenting skills in general, whatever it is, it will not be perfect. And so, if where you are right now is in a state where it is not perfect, great. That's life. You're doing it. That's the way it goes. So this image of Mary Poppins is coming to mind, right? And Mary Poppins represents, oddly enough, Mary Poppins, in this like subconscious way, Mary Poppins represents the perfect mother, but she isn't actually a mother, is she? Like, she comes in as like the helper slash maid slash teacher slash disciplinarian, but we don't actually see her as a mother herself. We see her as the person who comes in and, whips the children into shape. And I wonder if, on some subconscious level, many of us hold this idea that that is what we're striving for, right? Being Mary Poppins like, being this version of Mary Poppins. And, you know, for me to think of Mary Poppins being a real person is laughable, because who's the person who's going to have all the meal prepped, not only all the meal prepped, but delicious, nutritious meals. The laundry is going to be done and folded. The house is like tidy and clean and smells good. What else? What else? The homework is done if children are at the age where they're doing homework. The partner is happy. If there are pets in the house, then they've been washed or cleaned, and they're up to date with their vet visits. And I'm like, it's laughable to think that at any moment in time all of those things can be done. It is fucking hilarious. Because no, no, when you are one human being, or when you are two human beings taking care of other human beings outside of yourself, none of that stuff's going to be done. Not that none of it is going to be done, but all of it together is not going to be done if you're the only person, or if you're the only two people handling all of that. Not even if you're a multi-generational household of like 3 or 5 or whatever. I think that just creates more things to have to take care of, right? When there are even more of you in the household. And so I don't know if people are holding the idea that they should get to this point of perfection at some point. Are you holding that idea? I'm so curious. Like, I wonder if I will hold that idea. And up until this point, I have held that idea. Up until this point, I have held the belief that it is possible to experience a state of perfection in motherhood. And now I'm like, nah, screw that. That's not true. And really, this is coming from more of the personal journey that I have been on, to really separating myself from the idea of perfection. And I can talk more about where that comes from in terms of systems of oppression, right? Systems of oppression that tell us to be a certain way. And if we're not that certain way, then we're failing. And in order to not fail, these are the products or the services, these are the things that you need to do to not fail. And having us in that state where we feel bad about ourselves and feel terrible about what we're doing or not doing, it just keeps us in this state of being disempowered, and essentially always being at the mercy of something else or someone else to save us. But if you're in a state of being empowered, if you can sit in the magic of the mess and being like, oh, this is life, here we are, then there is a version of liberation that lives in that place with you, so that you don't have to go running after the this that can fix it, the that can fix it. Like, you get to be at home in whatever state that is, right? And it doesn't mean that you don't want more, you don't want something different, but there is no desperation or thirst. There is no what's the word? There is no separation from the wholeness of who you are, essentially, right? So I can sit in a messy room and recognize, oh, messy room, I am smelling dirty diapers, or, whatever the case might be, or, dinner isn't ready. I guess it's another takeout night. Whatever the situation might be, like, you can be at peace with that and not call onto yourself the emotion of shame because you're not doing enough, right? Like, you can acknowledge what the situation is, see what it is, understand why it is what it is, because there are not enough hands in this household. There are not enough hours in the day for everything to be done. And so we're going to do the best we can, and then we're going to sit and rest. We're going to do the essentials, and then we are going to sit, try to burp this baby, and rest. And I wonder if that's a state that you can be in. I wonder if that is a state that you can be in, because, like, for me, just feeling into it, it feels liberating. It feels as though it doesn't have the icky, stressful feeling, the desperation of, I need to get to that point. I need to get to whatever the goal is, right? Whatever that image is that we're sold, whatever that lie is, this Mary Poppins dressed up in her hat and shoes. And even as I say that, I actually had a pair of shoes that looked like Mary Poppins shoes that I loved. So I'm not criticizing her outfit. I think it's kind of cool. But what she stands for, this like perfect way of parenting and mothering, this perfect way of raising children, and nothing is perfect. Nothing. We're all doing the best we can. We're all figuring things out, and there's some people who have figured out certain tips and tricks, and yes, definitely learn what those are, so that your life, your day, so that parenting and living can be more easeful and less stressful. And don't for a moment convince yourself that there is any perfect place or perfect point that you need to strive to get to, because that shit is a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Nothing is perfect. Life, on the other hand, is expansive. It's messy. It's evolving. It's beautiful. It's creative. It's unpredictable. It's all of these things, but it is not perfect. And so what's coming up now is like, how do we move with all of that, with the messy, with the creative, with the unpredictable? How do we move with it? Yeah, what's coming through is really with grace. We can move through it with agility. We can move through it with humor, and really a lot of grace, right? You might get the thing done and you might not get it done. And so if you don't get it done, do you be the strict disciplinarian to yourself, right? Do you have that voice that is criticizing you for not having gotten that thing done? Or do you go, okay, honey, let's try again tomorrow? Or, looks like this will not get done. If it's me who has to get it done, maybe I'll get some help. Right? And so all the days when you're running out of the house late and criticize yourself for not getting it together early enough, or quickly enough. The days when you haven't had a meal or your child hasn't had the kind of meal that you'd want them to have. The days when you realize that you haven't kept in touch with friends and other people. The days when there just isn't enough time to do everything. Just all of the things. You know what the things are. Just all of the things. How about if you, beloved, how about if you give yourself some grace? How about if you give yourself some grace? Like, this idea of perfection, I really want to just throw it through the window. And maybe it requires another episode for me to share more about how it's been living within me and the liberation that I've been experiencing as a result of that. But really, it's like, if I can leave one thing with you, it is that perfection does not exist. And so if on a conscious or subconscious level, there is this idea of who you need to be in order to wear the badge called mother or parent, then know that that thing is a lie. Whatever you're being told is a lie. And really look at your situation, right? Look at your household, look at your family setup, look at your life setup, look at what's present, look at what's true in your world right now. And how's the best way that you can move with that? What's the support that you need? Or what are the things that, you just need to let go from your list because it is not realistic to have those things as an expectation, right? Maybe it can be done once a month, but it ain't happening once per week. What are those things? Right? Maybe it's a once per month thing, but it is not a weekly thing. I don't know. What are those things? So, yeah, just really wanting to offer that relief, offer that release of thinking that there is a way that you can do it perfectly, because that is not true. And you know that most of those photos on Instagram are photos of moments that seem perfect. You do it too. Or you might do it. You might do it. Right? Like when you capture those cute photos, those are the ones that go on Instagram and social media. Those are the ones that are sent to family members. When there's a tantrum that's happening, when there are tears, when it's hard, when it's painful, when it's annoying, when you're being kept up late, those things don't usually make it on social media. They might make it in a blog post and you might read it and it gives you comfort that someone else is going through that experience. It might make it on, a podcast episode, some, longer form, more intimate kind of content, but they are not usually the snapshots that go on Instagram and Facebook. And so don't be convinced by those snapshots. Don't be blinded by the lights. Right, because it looks, glitzy and glimmery, don't for a moment convince yourself that someone else is having a perfect experience of motherhood or parenthood and you're not, because the perfection in general does not exist. Everyone has their own little scenario based on who they are, where they live, what they've lived through, what their own setup of life experience is, and that's what they're responding to. That's what they're responding to. And so if in the midst of moving through this situation, you're being hard on yourself and you're being judgmental towards yourself, imagine how more difficult it is to hold that kind of energy in the midst of everything that's happening. So again, really my wish for you is to just give yourself so much grace, love. Just give yourself so much grace. Find humor if you can. Look at the madness and enjoy it. knowing that this is a moment in time, and these moments, they change so quickly. These little ones grow up so quickly. Find the support that you need, knowing that this is another thing that I didn't have a chance to really dive into, but really the parenting setup is meant to be in community. So many indigenous groups, so many families who still honor the traditional ways of navigating life, like that is done in community, where there are community mothers and community aunties and uncles, and the care is expanded. There's a network of care. Babies are being passed from hand to hand. It isn't meant to be this solo experience where you feel isolated, or it hasn't traditionally been that, but we live in a world where that is now the case more and more often. So just know that if the isolation and the separation is happening, it makes an experience that really has been a communal experience of taking care of children, it makes that even harder. And as I say that, don't now begin to feel guilt or shame that you've made a choice that has isolated you from community, because again, we really are doing the best that we can. And if you think of your life and your situation and the experiences that you've gone through, there is always a reason for why you are where you are now. It usually is that you've made the best choices that you could have made. And so we're coming right back to grace, giving ourselves grace. All right, I hope today's episode was helpful. I hope that it is a reminder to surround yourself with love and empathy and grace. I hope it's a reminder that perfection does not exist, and in any ways that these ideas of perfection are in either your subconscious or conscious mind, any ways that these become, the judge in your mind as to what you're doing and not doing right and how you need to be better, just give yourself some love. Lovingly respond to those criticisms with the knowing that you are doing the best you can. All right, so with that, I will close for the day. Whatever your experience of motherhood or parenting, know that you are worthy of so much love. I hope that you experience some sweetness, some peace, some joy, some comfort, whatever it is that you're wanting to support you in feeling balanced, support you in feeling cared for. That is my wish for you, that you get to experience that around this time. And if you'd like to connect with me, you know where to find me. I am at nataliefacey.com. That is NATALEE, face as in face, FACE, then a Y.com. My email is hello@nataliefacey.com. You can also find me on Instagram. I have been less present on Instagram because I've been fully present in my life. But I promise that I intend to creep my way back to Instagram and be more present there. And thank you again for listening to this episode. It's such a gift. Feel free to reach out if there is any way that you might want support on your journey, whether it's having a free clarity call, a free consultation call, and getting some guidance and direction there, or dropping in for sessions when you feel like you need it, or setting something up that takes you through the next few months of your journey, whatever your goal is, whether it's healing from a loss and allowing yourself to release the heaviness of the emotions that are still sitting with you, the ones that talk therapy hasn't been helpful with or hasn't been as helpful as you'd like it to be. Or if it is that you are thinking of trying for your next pregnancy and really wanting support to move through that. If you are in the depths of the parenting journey and you're wanting just to be the embodiment of your best version so that that's the version that your child gets to see, then I am happy to support you with any and all of those things. And so feel free to reach out, feel free to set up a free consultation call. You have absolutely nothing to lose, and I get the pleasure of talking to someone who listens to the podcast. Yay! And then being able to just offer you any guidance that might be helpful for your journey. All right, so that's the invitation. The door is open. Feel free to hop on either my Instagram or website. You'll see a link to my calendar from either of those options, and you can set up a call at a time that works well for you. All right, beloved, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I am wishing you a beautiful season of love, of being loved, of experiencing love, and a beautiful season of being seen and acknowledged and honored for who you are and your journey. All right, love, I will see you in the next episode. Bye.